The United States is seeing a dramatic increase in threats and acts of political violence against elected officials and everyday citizens. Much of that increase can be traced back to the 2020 presidential election and the January 6 attack on the U.S. Capitol. America right now is a pressure cooker, and the recent assassination of political commentator Charlie Kirk may be the boiling point people have long feared in this country. And it's all fueling a debate. What counts as protected speech, and what threats go too far? On this episode, we will sit down with experts on political violence and the American political system. We will talk to them about what is happening in this country and find out if there is a path through these dark times. July 2024. The election campaign is well underway. And then candidate Donald Trump is speaking at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, when multiple shots are fired at him. Political violence is often defined as the deliberate use of force to achieve political goals. And one cannot deny that the U.S. was born out of political violence. The revolution against Great Britain, the Civil War, the Haymarket Affair of 1886, and the Ludlow Massacre of 1914. Political violence in America is recurring, and now it is normalized. For the last year, violence from both sides of the political spectrum has been growing. And the effects on democracy in the United States are potentially fatal.
We've always had ups and downs, and everything has always had its own cycle. From Republicans to Democrats, and and everything in between, going back to our founding, obviously. But this time feels a little different, and I know we probably always say that each time we have one of these points that it feels different. But this feels something underneath the ground is kind of rumbling, and you can't see it, you can't touch it, but you can feel it, and that's kind of what I feel is happening right now. I think a lot of people are afraid. They're afraid for their livelihoods. They're afraid for their children.
So deal with it. I have a right. Do something about
it. It feels as though we have pushed the norm so far over the ledge. It's going to be harder and harder each day to come back. We had tremendous fear in the 60s with Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Act. And that's the last time I think we've had so much fear. I do believe, and to get a little bit political here, that the left, which I'm on, maybe tried to push the fringes a little bit more to lift them up a bit. And the right has now come in and pushed harder in the other direction. And so people feel they're bombarded every day with divisiveness. And you have to add to that, I think, you can't ignore social media, because whatever you go to look for, they come back at you 10 times worse. And they follow you on that.
Research by the American Bar Association shows that social media algorithms promote and amplify emotionally charged content. It creates an environment in which radical viewpoints are promoted and extremist groups that were once isolated find strength in numbers. Certainly, America has had moments of political violence in the past, but this one, to me, feels like it kind of started in 2020 with the death of George Floyd and the response to that, and then some of the right's response to George Floyd. Can you kind of take us back to 2020 and what was going on in America?
But I would go back even farther to Charlottesville, where Donald Trump said, there are good people on both sides. What I've recently read is that the militias, the activists, really kind of went underground a little bit after that. They had to. And now I've noticed more and more of these smaller organizations have developed. There's not 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 leaders. There's leaders everywhere.
How significant do you think the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol was in this cycle of political violence that we're seeing right now?
Very significant. When the President of the United States pardons those that were convicted of defacing our Capitol, trying to overthrow our government, it's very significant.
What do you want?
I can't breathe. Please, the name of it. I can't breathe shit.
Bro, get up, get in the car, man.
I will.
Get up, get in the car.
I can't move.
I've been waiting the whole time, man. Get up, get in the car.
Mama.
Get up and get in the car right.
2020 was undeniably a year of unrest in America. Political polarization was at an all-time high. The far left battled the far right, and there was little middle ground. The election brought victory for Democrat Joe Biden.
Office of President of the United States.
But over the next 4 years, the nation became more divided than ever. How do you feel like the political violence right now in America compares as far as intensity, as far as the separation between the political parties, as far as the hatred people seem to feel? How do you feel like it compares to other points in American history?
You go back to the war between the states. I mean, that we've always had. How does it compare now? I think we have social media. The news travels a lot quicker. It can be manipulated to say whatever. We have AI. It can say whatever you want to say, and you can promote conspiracy theories, whether they're true or not. You have more access and more people with more access to guns and ammunition and all kinds of things like that. And we're more mobile than we were years ago. We can get around from one place to another in a matter of hours, depending on where we're going.
Many see the attack on January 6, 2021 as an attack on American democracy. The attempt to prevent a peaceful transition of power. Extremist groups like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers have largely been held accountable for the attack. For some, it was accumulation of a year of unrest. But for many others, it was just the beginning of a wave of political violence that America has never seen before. Explain to me how you see the country has shifted since 2020 to now in 2025.
May I go back a little bit further than that?
You may.
Because I think it kind of starts around 2016, 2015. So I think a couple of things have happened. Actually, I'll go back even further, if I may. If we were to go back to like the 90s, when I was growing up, I think political identity was a lot less important to people, and that was a healthier time for the country. At the time, their political identity was a fairly secondary consideration. People view the primacy of their politics as a core identity and a core group membership, and a lot of the time as a substitute personality. And unfortunately, if you're going to pick politics as your main thing, as your personality, your tribe, your identity, you've picked something that's predicated on having an enemy team and defeating an enemy team. And I think that has kind of gotten out of hand. One of the weird things that's happened over the last 20, 30 years is we've sorted to where if you're a conservative, you're a Republican. If you're a liberal, you're a Democrat. Effective polarization is, I hate you. I hate you, Nathan. That's what effective polarization is. That's been going up at a crazy pace since 2015 or so. The 2016 election between Trump and Hillary was the first election we have on record where more people voted in opposition to a candidate than for a candidate.
June 2022, an attacker traveled to the home of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh with plans to assassinate him. He was arrested before anyone was injured. A man broke into the San Francisco residence of former House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi and beat her husband, Paul Pelosi, with a hammer. Nancy Pelosi was not at home at the time.
Nobody deserves to die for having an odious political opinion.
This kind of algorithm-driven anger that we're seeing right now, given this unprecedented access that tech companies have to kind of reach into your brain and fiddle a little bit, do you think we need to reapproach some of the protections of the First Amendment? Do we think we need to kind of change the way that we're protecting or prohibiting speech in this country?
No, not one bit. I am emphatically in favor of free speech and First Amendment issues. I think there's kind of two ways people approach bad ideas. Historically, people either think bad ideas are countermanded by good ideas, and the way we handle bad ideas is we bring them into the open, and they're ridiculed by people like me, either through comedy or punditry, and then the good ideas went out. The other way of looking at bad ideas is that they are a virus that has to be lanced, and that's where you get into laws that crack down on speech. I don't think we want to go there. I think America is a shining beacon of this. It's something we should be proud of as a people, how much we care about freedom of speech. It's a good thing. It's been a gift to ourselves and to the world.
During Donald Trump's third campaign for the White House, there were two attacks on his life. The first at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania in July of 2024. 2 months later, a Secret Service agent spotted a man with a rifle near Trump while then presidential candidate was playing golf at his country club. No one was injured.
The left didn't kill Charlie Kirk. That guy killed Charlie Kirk. The right didn't brain Paul Pelosi with a hammer. The right didn't blow up a building in my hometown. You can't project those acts onto an entire group as if the Democratic Party took a vote on whether or not to shoot Charlie Kirk. For the Republicans and Democrats, that's going on. And it lends itself to that idea that there is the left or the right that is somehow spiritually responsible for these things. And I think that is going too far. I don't think it helps, because then what do we end up arguing about? Instead of us doing the right thing, which is we should always condemn political violence.
April 2025, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania governor, Josh Shapiro's home was set on fire, while Shapiro and his family slept inside. Thankfully, there were no injuries.
Woke us up and told us we had an emergency and needed to leave immediately.
June 2025, the Minnesota lawmaker shootings. A gunman targets several Minnesota election officials. He kills Minnesota House Representative member Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark Hortman. Their dog is also home and killed. State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette Hoffman, were also shot and injured in their home. Research shows that an increasing number of Americans believe that political violence is necessary for there to be change in this country. In fact, the number of Americans who believe that is up 19% compared to just a year and a half ago. And in that year and a half, there were a number of high-profile acts of political violence. The murder of Charlie Kirk in Utah, the murder of a Democratic lawmaker and her husband in their home in Minnesota, and multiple assassination attempts on Donald Trump. What is clear is that Americans feel like the threat is coming from inside their own country. It is coming from across the political aisle. What is not clear is if this will be a wake-up call for America, or if this cycle of violence will continue into something much darker.
Right, whether it's more on the right or more on the left, it's going to require both sides ratcheting down the tension. to not like Charlie Kirk's political views, but celebrating someone's horrific assassination is gross. And then it would require folks like the Trump administration to quit saying they killed Charlie Kirk, because who's they? It was one lone guy who seemed to have, radical political views, but he didn't coordinate with any groups. There's no evidence of that. And the they is a very obvious political tactic to castigate the left and use it as a political issue.
Join me in welcoming the next Vice President of the United States.
Charlie Kirk, one of the most prominent American right-wing political activists and media personalities. An evangelist driven by a desire to spread Christian nationalism. He co-founded the conservative organization Turning Point USA in 2012 and was its executive director. He published a range of books and hosted The Charlie Kirk Show, a talk radio program. Kirk was undoubtedly one of the most prominent voices of the MAGA movement. Donald Trump relied on him heavily in his 2024 election campaign, and Kirk is considered an icon of modern American conservatism. Kirk's debates, beliefs, and messaging were controversial. Anti-immigration, anti-Islam, he was often accused of being racist, and he believed vehemently in the conservative way of life and traditional family values. On September 10, 2025, Charlie Kirk was on stage at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah, for his American Comeback Tour. Around 20 minutes after the event began, Kirk was fatally shot in the neck.
Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
In front of a live audience of about 3,000 people and untold millions online.
There's a country of, 370 million people. It's going to happen. And you can't control everything. And it's not all politics. It's mental health. But you can do a little bit more to protect children, the elderly, worshipers, someone like Charlie Kirk who's just trying to use his First Amendment right. I didn't agree with him on a lot of things, but he had every right to say it. And good for him to argue with other folks, even though I didn't believe what he said. But, in this country, that's what we do.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. Those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now.
Because I do think Trump is and was a threat to democracy, and I think his actions in light of Charlie Kirk's shooting illustrate that. Instead of bringing the country together, he is using it as a pretext to investigate progressive groups. And he's saying they might have had a hand in, this violence when there's no evidence that's the case. That's an incredibly, threatening thing for our democracy.
How do you feel about the Trump administration designating Antifa as a terrorist organization? That also feels like it's bordering on the line of a First Amendment violation, given Antifa is kind of this school of thought more than it really is an organization in any given city, really.
Antifa is a fairly amorphous thing. There are Antifa chapters, but there's not like a national Antifa organization. We're in D.C. We can't walk over to R Street or K Street or whatever and go to the Antifa headquarters. It doesn't exist. I don't know the constitutional ramifications of that. Like, I don't know what leverage the federal government gets to prosecute Black Box as a result of him declaring that. I decry people destroying private property or hurting anybody in any situation, but since Antifa's not actually a group in the organizational sense, I don't really know what that does other than signaling.
The ripple effect of the death of Charlie Kirk was felt across the world. Vigils, memorials, protests, a popular talk show suspended, roads in Florida named after Kirk. The list is endless.
But we are talking about the relationship between Europe and America. What is America getting right? What is America getting wrong? What is Europe and Britain getting right? And what are they getting wrong? And where the two can meet? So, what can we learn from each other in these crazy times?
And how do you think American politics are going right now?
Well, I mean, I've moved 5,000 miles across the world to cover it because there's never a dull day here, is there? Look, I think the seismic effect of what happened last November still hasn't sunk in for large parts of the left in America.
There seems to be an excess of division in American politics right now. We just had the assassination of Charlie Kirk. There's been a number of high-profile acts of political violence. From your point of view, what is going on with political violence in America right now?
I mean, it's terrifying. It is horrible. It's horrible to see. I love this country, and it is in a dark place. I think you've got to look at the. I do sort of buy the idea of if you sort of call everyone Nazis and racists or wokist or insurrectionists on the other side, the temperature does get dialed up and crazy people do crazy stuff, right? And I think we're seeing it, weirdly, I think the wrong lessons are being learnt in the UK, where that rhetoric on immigration and, people calling people enemies and traitors is seeping into British politics. It's the combination of that high tension plus, obviously, access to firearms plus, dark recesses of the internet. It's a pretty toxic combination. I think it's hard to know what to do.
What do you think the fallout from Charlie Kirk's assassination is going to be?
Well, I think if they tried to silence, if they wanted to shut him up, I think he couldn't have done a worse job. Like his legacy. I mean, those remarkable scenes we saw in Arizona for that funeral. I've never seen anything like it. You had the entire, from the president down. You had the entire, pretty much the entire cabinet there. You saw it's the first time in a long time I can remember such an open embrace of Christianity on American network TV. Like it was remarkable. Charlie Kirk, when he died, had 3 million Instagram followers. Now he's got 14.5. Lots and lots of people are going to pick up a microphone after him, and I think that will be his legacy.
Do you think that these acts of political violence, they're the response to the actions of political parties, or do you think these are just acts of madmen?
I think obviously they are acts to pick up a hunting rifle and shoot a 31-year-old father, 33-year-old father of two. Isn't it? There is madness there. Don't get me wrong. I do think though that we all play our part in that, but like the rhetoric has got out. Calling people a fascist day in, day out, calling everyone racist day in, day out, calling everyone traitors or insurrectionists, or on both sides, I think the temperature has got too high. Can you draw a direct line, between politicians? I think the really interesting thing was when Pam Bondi came out and said, "Oh, we're going to start criminalising hate laws." I can sit here and talk to you about how badly that's gone in Britain. Who defines what is hate? Where is the line? Do we want to give that power to the state to basically determine, words? That was not what Charlie Kirk's legacy should be. That was not what Charlie Kirk would have supported. His whole mantra was facts don't care about your feelings. Do not censor speech. I just think as an outsider in this country and someone who's watched this country for a very long time from afar, you have something pretty special here. And yes, it obviously has its major flaws, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't overcorrect. Don't rush to overcorrect. However tempting that can be in the heat of the moment.
Charlie Kirk's death, like the others who have fallen to political violence before him, has left a deep, dark scar on the very foundation of which America was built. The murder of Charlie Kirk shocked the world. Many saw it as a wake-up call for America, while others saw it as a call to action. How America responds now, and the ability to unite and find middle ground, will be fundamental in the future of the U.S. democracy.